Hi there, this is Kevin Sharp from Kevin Sharp Outdoor Philosophy, and today I would like to have a discussion with y'all about something that's very touchy subject and some people consider quite controversial. Today I'm going to be talking to you about school shootings, and we're going to be talking about some problems and some proposed solutions that are coming from myself that I think that can possibly help with the unending debate over gun control. We'll start off with the problems. I think that one of the biggest problems that we have in this country is that we don't want to admit that evil people exist anymore. And that comes from the progressive left, the progressive liberals. And we have too many people saying, oh, this person suffers from a mental disability or a mental illness. You know, oh, that person, he's just sick. He's not, we can fix him. Let me tell you something. Anybody who can walk into a school with a loaded gun ready to kill kids is just pure evil. Pure satanic evil. There ain't nothing sick about them. There ain't nothing, well, there is, but there isn't. You know, there's nothing fixable about them. And I think that's a big problem. And people need to admit that these people exist. They're out there. I mean, people didn't say Adolf Hitler was sick. They said he was evil. That's exactly what he was. So we need to quit, fantasizing that we can fix every problem there is. Some problems just can't be fixed. Another problem is that we want to blame the guns instead of the perpetrator. For example, with Sandy Hook. I know while I was watching that I heard the type of guns that the guy used before I even knew the guy's name. There was an AR-15 involved. Oh, okay. What do you? I know that there was a gun involved. What are you getting at? Who did it? What happened? Who's the person responsible for the shooting? We didn't find out for hours later that the guy's name was Adam Lanza. And I'm sitting here like, okay, well, why didn't you just say that? Why did you wait till now? I'm sure there's legalities and all that involved, but my point is, there's a reason why they wanted to say that, oh, there was AR-15, there's AR-15. The mainstream media always wants to paint the guns as the problem. The guns ain't the problem. The problem is the evil person behind the gun. I've never seen, in my 35 years on this earth, a gun load itself and go on a shooting spree by itself. It takes an evil person with an evil plan and an evil intent to carry it out. So why do we put so much blame on the gun? We should be putting the blame where it belongs, on the person. Another problem that I want to talk about is progressive liberals want to focus on a political issue instead of a legitimate problem. They want to talk about, oh, ban guns, ban guns, ban guns. Guns are so bad. Guns are so evil. Well, wait a minute. There's good guys with guns. Those guns ain't evil. Why is that? It's because of good guys controlling it. That's why. They would rather ban guns for us and take away our personal liberties, our liberties given us by God and the Constitution, and put us into subjugation, in my opinion. That's what the progressive liberal agenda is. And most of the time when you hear gun owners, you don't ever hear them talk about the gun bans and stuff right after that. They're usually the ones saying, oh my God, this is so terrible. This is so terrible. Why couldn't it have been stopped? You don't hear them talk about gun ban, gun ban, gun ban. At 5 minutes after Sandy Hook, they were on the air on the mainstream media talking about banning guns. I mean, that's just, to me, that's awful. The next problem is that parents are not involved in their kids' lives. And what I mean by that is that parents stay distracted nowadays. It's a very busy world we live in. And kids seem to get, into these violent video games and stuff like that. and the parents have no idea what's going on. They don't have any idea that these kids are accepting this fantasy as reality. I'm about to touch on that. And it's really important for us as parents, and I have a 3-year-old myself and 3 great stepkids, and I can say it's very difficult, even myself, to know everything they're doing. But you can keep involved and keep your eye on the situation about what's going on. It's not impossible to do. So parents are one of the best lines of defense against stuff like this happening. The next problem is violent video games, violent movies, and music diminish human life, and they present fantasy as reality. And what do I mean by that? I hear too many kids, and too many adults for that matter, who will go and watch a movie and be like, man, that's so cool, that guy was just killing people left and right, that's so cool. Like, not really. If this person did this in reality, that would be a mass murderer. There ain't nothing cool about that. But a movie taken in context as what it is, a movie, a fantasy, something to suspend your disbeliefs. Yeah, I mean, it's fine to be able to watch a movie and realize, hey, this is just a fantasy. There ain't nothing real about it. Same with music. People take stuff like that way too literally and want to emulate that. They want to turn fantasy into reality. And I think that is a big contributing problem to some of these kids that perpetrate these crimes, is that they don't have a sense of reality and the pain that they're causing when they do stuff like this. I mean, shooting somebody in a video game is completely different than shooting somebody in reality, because that person has a family. It's not just a computer generating the image. There's a real person involved here, and there's a real family behind that person, and you're causing pain and grief to those people, immeasurable pain and grief to those people, and it's just awful. The next thing that I would like to point out as a problem is that people just are taught nowadays don't care. Don't care about this other person. It's their problem. Well, in my reality, those people's problems can become your problems in a big hurry, especially with something like we're talking about today, we're discussing today. Another problem is that communities think it can't happen to them, and that people don't care for one another. I'm sure the people in Newtown, Connecticut thought, it can't happen here. It can't happen here, and it happened. Columbine, small community, it happened. Here's some noise in the background, that's my family. Communities need to stop thinking about stuff like that and need to start making plans for the things can happen. So I've talked about the problem. So what can we offer for solutions to these problems? Well, I've separated them out into 3 groups. The first group I'd like to talk about is things at home, things that we can do at home. Number 1 is parents get involved in your kid's life. Be parents. If your kids are making those kinds of statements like, oh, this is cool and everything, be like, straighten them out. Be like, hey, life is not a video game. Life is much different than a video game. You need to learn what reality is and not this fantasy world. People need to learn the value of human life. People need to quit, thinking that need to quit diminishing human life through these video games and this violent music and violent movies. And people need to realize that that's fantasy and not reality. And reality is more likely this person has a family that's going to be hurt. They're going to have friends that are going to be hurt. They're going to be hurt. And then your family's going to be hurt when you go to jail or you get killed. Reality is much, much, much different than fantasy. People need to, and that's my next point, my next solution. People need to discern between fantasy and reality. Like I said, too many kids have got the idea that fantasy is reality, and they need to be separated. Parents need to be on point about that. They need to say, hey, wait a minute, you see this movie right here? That's not the way it really is. You know, you hear this music right here, that's not the way it really is. When this guy's glorifying shooting this house up, there's people in that house that have families, friends. Like I said before, you know, you need to know the difference between fantasy and reality. When you pull the trigger, there ain't no taking it back. There ain't no reset button. You can't have a replay on it, or a redo, whatever you want to call it. When you pull the trigger, it's on a real gun, it's forever. It ain't going away. And then finally, in the home group, people need to start treating signs of mental illness seriously. You know, when people start making threats over and over and over again, saying, oh, you know, I just want to shoot this place up because I've got, you know, my daddy treated me wrong when I was a kid, and, you know, I need, you know, my parents ain't treating me right, so I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna mess them up and all that. It needs to be taken seriously. You know, there are some things that are said that you know, people say things that they don't mean, but then there's a difference between that and making an honest threat. So people need to treat the signs of mental illness and treat threats much more seriously than what they do. The next group that I'm going to get to is the one that I'm probably going to get a little bit livid about. It's schools. My number one solution for these school shootings would be to put a police officer or a security guard, or preferably both, in it. I agree with the NRA on that. Only a good guy with a gun can stop a bad guy with a gun. And usually that's how it happens, or the bad guy stops himself. But since my progressive liberal friends have budget issues, and yeah, don't be shocked, that's what they said as soon as somebody brought it up. You know, it's like, oh my God, we can't afford it. That's the first time I've ever heard a progressive liberal say that on TV. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Did I just hear what I heard? Did they just say we couldn't afford it? These are the same people who have to have every little pothole paved, you know, up and down their road in front of their house. They have to have, you know, all these county workers and city workers I see riding around in brand new vehicles. You know, they're the ones that want that. They want that. You know, to spend that money and, you know, spend money on studies, you know, about, you know, how whales have sex. You know, stuff like that. Bridges to nowhere. You know, all that kind of, you know, money spending. Oh, we got to have this study done on shrimp. We can't take the millions upon millions of dollars worth, you know, money and take it and spend it towards protecting our kids. But we could spend it on highways, you know, these shovel-ready jobs, I think they call them. And, you know, all these vehicles, new vehicles I see all these, you know, state and city and county workers riding around in. Brand new. I mean, you can't, you know, I've been driving around a 20-year-old truck, you know, forever. And these guys can't make it 5 years in the same vehicle. Give me a break. Come on. But sorry for getting off on a rant. But here's my number one thing, if it is at the armed guards. Safe rooms need to be built in every schoolroom. Every schoolroom that is going to be built needs to have a safe room. And what I mean by a safe room is a bullet-resistant room. A closet, kind of. A safe room. You can have it for multiple things, not only just active shooters, say tornadoes, something like that, in each classroom. Don't make them have to go out into the hallway and run down the hallway to get to a place. Have one in every classroom. We can afford it. Believe me, we can afford it. Every school that's been built before now, they should be retrofitted with one in every schoolroom. Every schoolroom. We can afford it. If we can afford going out and buying new vehicles for all these county and state employees, we can afford to put a safe room in every classroom. If not nationwide, start with local school systems and then build yourselves up to the state level, and then nationwide. But we can do this. This is something that can absolutely be done. We don't have to necessarily stop the guy. All we have to do is slow it down. What I mean by that? Give the police time to get there. Instead of losing all these lives to these people, if you make it hard for them, make them have to work at it, have to, try to blast through, because an AR-15 and an AK-47 both have their limits. They can't just go and blow a big old huge hole in the side of a wall if it's built right. They have their limits. That bullet, they're actually underpowered compared to a hunting rifle, actually. We're not talking about a gigantic howitzer blowing huge 3 or 4 foot holes into a wall. They won't do that. Okay? All you got to do is slow it down. Make it hard for these guys. All you need is 5 to 15 minutes. Make it hard for them for 5 to 15 minutes. That's all you got to do for the good guys to get there, for the cops to get there. I think we can do it. And there ain't no progressive liberal that can say it's a budget issue. I don't buy that one little bit. The next thing I believe we should have is, of course, armed security guards and police need to be stationed at every school, at least one each. One security guard, an armed security guard, and I'm not talking about just a security guard that you go get from Securitas or some other little company like that. I'm talking about ex-military, ex-police, heavily trained, and armed. The next one should be a police officer. Should be stationed at every school. I believe we can afford that. Again, progressive liberals on television, as soon as it was brought up, and I was sitting there like, that's ingenious. Why? I mean, we're doing that where I'm at. There's a police officer stationed at every school, but I'm sitting here like, what do you mean we can't afford it? They're sitting there screaming, we can't afford it. There's no way we can afford it. It's going to kill our budget. No, it's going to take money away from what you want to spend it on. You want to spend it on different things than to have common sense and spend it on something. There is nothing more worthy in my mind than protecting our kids. But I believe at least 2 should be stationed at each school. At a minimum 1. Another solution I have is I actually participated in, and I loved it. There is a program that our school system takes part in called Watchdogs. It stands for Dads of Great Students. And what you do is one school day, when I did this with my stepdaughter, I went to her school. They gave me a little walkie-talkie, and they gave me a key to every classroom and every room on the school. And they told me basically walk around. I did a little patrol around the school, checked all the doors that were supposed to be locked, make sure everything was okay, looking for any type of suspicious activity. And then once I got through doing that, I went in and spent a little time with the kids. Not only my daughter, my stepdaughter, but some other kids as well. Went back out, did it again. Went around. I was constantly going through the hallways, going around the school on the outside, looking for suspicious activity. And with a walkie-talkie, all I had to do was hit that button and say, hey, there's a suspicious looking guy walking towards the school. I think he has a gun. Have that same frequency on the armed guard and the police officer there and the principal and the administrators there, where they can call for backup right then, and then the police officer and the security guard, hey, they're on their way. I think that was a brilliant move. I think that should be in every school. Let the parents come in there and let the parents take it upon themselves to provide some security for their kids. I know I volunteered for it. I loved it. I'd love to do it again. I probably am going to do it again when my son gets that age. The next thing, kind of touched on in this last one, was schools should have an active shooter plan, and they need to drill for it. Once they get the safe rooms up and they get a plan, okay, teachers, you hear this alarm and make it a very distinctive, loud alarm. That way not only can the people inside the school hear it, but people outside the school, so when the people outside hear it, say, oh my God, I know what that is. I'm going to call 911 and get the police out here. Make it very loud. Make it very distinct. Have those teachers get those kids in that safe room. And like I said, you want it in the classroom because you don't want the kids coming out into the hallway. You're just asking for it. All those kids in a crowd into a hallway, going to one room, That's stupid. Put them in each classroom. That way they ain't got to go outside, have a lock on the door where you can hit that lock or whatever. Get into your room and have a good, solid steel door in there, bulletproof door, bullet-resistant walls and stuff. Lock it down and pray that a good guy gets there with a gun. And drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it, drill it. Those kids should know when that alarm goes off, just like a fire alarm, when that alarm goes off, boom, teacher ain't even got to tell me. I'm heading straight for that room. Get in it. Everything's good. Moving on now to community is the next group. Communities need to watch for warning signs. I've touched on it in the problems and stuff. But when you start hearing people make threats, and usually these people will make threats, they need to be taken seriously. Even if, you know, you kind of know whenever somebody's just a little bit, you know, he's a little weird. You know, he's not been too good here lately. You need to take it serious. You need to alert the authorities. You need to go up. I would go up to the school and talk to the principal if I heard something like that. I would say, hey, principal so-and-so, this guy's been talking an awful lot of smack about coming up here, and I don't know if he's serious or if he's just talking, but you need to know about it. You need to take this seriously, in my opinion. I'm sure they'll listen to you. Next things is these tragedies need to be stopped being used for political gain. My progressive liberal friends, you need to stop with all this nonsense about banning guns. The guns ain't the problem. We've already touched on that. In 35 years of life, I have never seen a gun get up, load itself, and go and commit a violent crime. Never. Never. I've seen some weird things, but I've never seen that. Progressive liberals want to take that. They want that agenda because they want, like I said, to get us into subjugation. They want to take away the one thing that gives us power. Power to defend ourselves, power to defend others, and most of all, it acts as a deterrent for tyranny. The Second Amendment does. But they want to take that away from us because they want to subjugate us. They want to turn us not into civilians, not into citizens, but they want to turn us into subjects. Subjects have no choice. And like I said, the progressive liberals, that's been on their agenda now for a very long time. I think we've given up way too much as it is to allow this to happen. And don't get me, they want this kind of stuff to happen. Why do you think as soon as somebody, as I thought was common sense thing, somebody could say, well, why not put police officers in here? Immediately, they were like, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. Why? Because all these school shootings like this is going to stop. Man, I know people are going to be like, what? Are you serious? Are you really saying this? Yeah, I am. I believe they want it to happen because if it isn't happening, guess what? They ain't got nothing to argue about. They don't have that one big point. And I'm talking about school shootings here. Now, mass shootings, stuff that happens at malls and stuff that happens like at movie theaters, like that crazy James Holmes or whatever his name was did in Colorado. I don't think you can do it there because schools are a very controlled environment. You can do this at schools because they're a very controlled environment. Malls and theaters aren't. So that's kind of a different animal amongst itself. That's where the armed citizen comes into play. But I really do believe that the solutions I put forth in the school thing would help in that. You know, if, you know, for whatever reason the progressive liberals have such a problem with paying a police officer to protect our kids, you know, maybe, you know, like I said, these safe rooms, the parental watchdogs, you know, and the active shooter plans, I believe we can do that. And it's perfectly reasonable, perfectly affordable. It can be done. Why ain't we doing it? And whenever a progressive liberal or somebody says, oh, well, we can't do that, we can't afford that, well, why not? Why can't I know I can dodge potholes going down the road? I know I can drive a 20-year-old truck around. Why can't all these state employees and stuff that we've got riding around here in brand new vehicles, why can't they ride around in a 5-year-old truck? It's perfectly reasonable. You're being unreasonable. Bring it to their attention. Say, well, what is worth that money? Is trucks, brand new vehicles for these county workers riding around and stuff, and state workers riding around? Is that it's worth that, but it's not worth a kid's life? Not having a perfect road in front of your house, having a few potholes, it's worth to fix that, but it's not worth it to protect our children. Watch how they react to that. Just watch. The next thing, and this is the last one, blame should be focused on the perpetrator and not the tool. And let me give you an example, okay? We do not put a Chevy Malibu in prison for something that a drunk driver does. We put the drunk driver in prison. They get the blame. An active shooter should be given the blame. Adam Lanza should be getting the blame, not the AR-15. That's just the way I see it, folks. These are all my ideas. These are all my beliefs. These are all my proposals that I've put forth on the table. People say, oh, you just want to talk about the problems. Well, I'm putting forth some solutions here. I appreciate all my viewers and subscribers' comments and opinions in this matter. Remember the golden rule, folks, in the comment section. I'm not going to tolerate any threats. I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your ideas. And there might be something that I'm not thinking of that might be a brilliant idea. Please post it. Please put it up here. I beg you, please put it up here. There's nothing worth it more than a child's life. And I appreciate your time and your ideas. And we'll see you next time.